talking about castles built on air, that's D&D Next, folks. It is, at the moment, it is vaporware. But it is vaporware that tons of people are working really hard on that is going to become realware for sure. Because if it doesn't, I think all those jobs go away. Because this is sort of like, get it right or go home. You know, so if it is terrible, it won't be for lack of trying. Now, I've just written 2 products. Ed Greenwood presents Elminster's Realms. I did not come up with these titles, folks. And then Murder in Baldur's Gate, which are, well, let me put it this way. Murder in Baldur's Gate is something I think we should have done long ago. You get the story. You go onto the website for stats for 3.5, 4th, and D&D Next. They're free. You can get the stats for all of them. You can mix and match the stats. You can make it up as you go along. I have to honestly say, I don't have much of a stake in that because I'm not running a gaming company. I'm not there to sell you rule books. My players and I have played with the style that we've evolved for ourselves since back before the Forgotten Realms was published. So, aside from it's fun to write, I really don't give a flying for rules. I just want to give you new monsters, new magic items, new spells, and new cool stories in which people kill each other. I mean, in which you have a chance to, adventure and have glory. The dwarven woman having beards and figuring out falling damage, that's sort of like, yeah, okay, well, there are wonks for that. And there are people who obsess for that. And I will happily write you recipes for, dragon soup and stuff like that, because there's a game design. And then, of course, all of my editrixes will tear up at her and say, that's morally indefensible. These are sentient creatures. And I say, have you looked at the real world recently? but okay, that's it for D&D Next. So I would now like to open it up to you, so I'm talking about what you guys want to hear about. I can pontificate on any topic you wish for the rest of our time. How can I be of the most help to you? Please don't be shy, just bellow something out. Yes, I see a hand up over there.
What character races are going to be available to begin with?
I wish I knew. I'm honest about that. I do know from what I've seen over the shoulder of John Shindahedi, who is our great art director, and you too can look over his shoulder by going on the website, looking at his column there on the Wizards website, as he does different takes on particular monsters for the game and particular races, and he invites artists to do their conceptions. You can sort of figure out what's going to be early on in the game. Now, I would be deceiving you if I didn't share with you my strong suspicion that any character race that's in the Lord of the Rings movies, the elves, the dwarves, okay, you're going to see them if they're going to be character races in the core rule set. I would hesitate to say that the jury is still out on whether the gnome is going to be a player character race or I'm a monster. Again, because one of the things that they are still debating is how you release the core product and how big it is. You see, there are elements within the company who go, we can have everything, which means we don't have to write to lengths. We can just keep going. You can get bigger and bigger and bigger and make them all pay a subscription and they'll get, and there are other people who say, you realize that you could never evangelize the game to a wider audience unless you have something really cool you can hold in your hands and look at and go ooh and ah over. It's the debate about ebooks writ large, or writ small, depending on, we all were exposed to books that we were given as gifts or saw in the public library or found in a doctor's waiting room or on a seat on the subway or on the beach. Sometimes we were exposed to Playboys and stuff like that. Wow! And if you put it all online, you can only find it either by accident or if you already know how to spell it, they could look for it. There's a smaller number of people who will find things in all the shouting and noise of everything that's out there on the internet. And because the other thing that Wizards of the Coast is trying to do is become a real publisher, like New York publishers. They're buying into the way the industry works inevitably. The industry doesn't work, is the honest answer to that, and it's changing all the time. But it still has these things where, yeah, they like to have print books that they can put on display in bookstores, the few bookstores that are left. Because, again, e-tailing, that means somebody called Amazon controls who gets to see your book. And they hate that because they're publishers, and the whole point of being a publisher is we control the world, and they don't want to give that up. So, it's a very long-winded answer for, I don't know. But I would be really surprised if we didn't get elves and dwarves, right? And they're still playing with the, it would be cool to play a tiefling, which is sort of like, it's cool to be a Lannister, the reason I equate those two is because that's very flavor of the moment. It's cool to be a Lannister at this moment. 6 months down the line, it might be not so cool to be a Lannister, So, and again, we don't know when the actual products are going to drop, so we don't know exactly which way they're going to jump. And honestly, I don't know. I'm not an employee. I've never been an employee of TSR or Wizards of the Coast. I am a freelancer sitting up in Canada, whom they occasionally fly out to Seattle, and we eat food together, and we look at stuff, and we bullshit. I mean, we design things. But no, there are certain decisions like that I will discover when you guys do, when I buy eagerly the first thing. No, actually, in the back there, yes. Okay, green shirt. Yeah.
How accessible are they trying to make D&D Next for brand new players?
Very. They want it to be modular, so you can add, do you want psionics in your game? Do you want this in the game? You can leave it out, and the game will still play. So in theory, and they have an eye on this, parents could teach very young children, or teachers could teach students, and have a stripped-down game that doesn't have some of the moral complexities, or which is the company shorthand for nude woman, in the game, and some of the moral dilemmas and some of the Leviathan, whips and chains stuff. You can leave all that out, and you can leave out some of the complexities. You may have noticed this, those of you who bought various editions of the game. Every time you buy the root product of the new edition, diseases and poisons are gone. And they come back in a support product later on, because they're immediately, things like that should fall off the table. Because half the time, you have people at the company saying, oh my God, Ed, you can't write any more of those druidic herb lore because somebody could try this in real life. We'll get sued. And I said, really? Somebody in real life is going to find dragon pee? Because if so, I want to beat a path to that person's door. I want this stuff, because I'm always deliberately including stuff that is totally fictitious that you can't get. Meaning, the lawsuit's going to be based on air. Because if you substitute something, by the way, want to make dragon soup? You like my recipes? Chicken. Everything tastes like chicken. No, or pork. I actually do a recipe with a meat or whatever that you can get in the real world. And then when somebody asks, I would really like to serve, roast cockatrice at our wedding. Where do you get your cockatrice? And I can say, fine white pork. Oh, okay. By the way, can't find fine white pork? The meat for the beaver from right above the tail? Really nice one. Never mind. Okay. So, yeah, it will be simply told, and with lots of illustrations, and there will be a whole range of stuff, because, let's face it, they do not want to piss off dyed-in-the-wool veteran gamers. That's the core market that they sort of spurned in their haste to get the new market, and there's a bit of a problem here in that Wizards of the Coast is now owned by Hasbro, and Hasbro being a toy company, they had this mindset, our consumers turn over every 6 years because they grow up, but they're little kids. They grow up, go to college, whatever, they don't care anymore. We need the new audience. Role-playing games isn't the same as that, and it took them several years of coming to Gen Con and seeing gamers pushing strollers and gamers coming up to, us old farts and their grandparents, and they're showing off their grandchildren to us. And because at first they didn't countenance that such a thing existed. So that they are slowly waking up, helped by the fact that they can see in Hollywood that any of you who've seen any superhero movie that has Marvel characters in it, that's because the little kids who love the Marvel comics are now studio executives, and they're making the movies they wanted to see when they were little kids. And they're